Captain Ryan tightened his grip on the small bouquet of flowers he carried, feeling their delicate petals brush against his fingers. Each bloom seemed to vibrate with life, fragile yet full of color, a tiny piece of earth that he was bringing to a world so alien it made his own home feel small by comparison. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying the habits, the court rituals, the very personality of the Lyrathi queen. For centuries, the Lyrathi had been a mystery to humans, their empire vast and their power unquestioned. Entire fleets had hesitated at the edge of their space, unwilling to provoke a species so unpredictable, so formidable. Ryan, however, had been chosen for his diplomacy, his calm under pressure, and his ability to see what others missed. Today, he hoped that skill would carry him safely through the one door he had dreamed of opening. The corridor leading to the Queen's chamber was unusually quiet. The usual hum of energy flowing through the ship seemed dimmer here, almost respectful, as if the ship itself acknowledged the importance of the meeting ahead. The walls, sleek and polished, reflected the soft glow of the ambient lights, stretching the corridor endlessly. Ryan's footsteps echoed softly as he walked, each step a reminder that he was crossing not just distance, but the boundary between human expectation and alien reality. He had imagined this moment countless times. The grand entrance, the awe-inspiring presence of the Queen, the weight of her gaze that could silence even the bravest warrior. He had prepared speeches, gestures, even the precise angle at which he would present the flowers. Yet now, approaching the chamber, his rehearsed confidence trembled, and a strange mixture of anticipation and fear stirred in his chest. He paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. The flowers were simple, chosen carefully from a garden on Earth that had been cultivated specifically for this occasion. Soft roses, bluebells, and tiny sunflowers, each symbolizing peace, hope, and brightness. Ryan had thought about the Lyrathi senses, about how their perception of color and scent differed from humans, and he had selected these blooms hoping their vibrancy would be universally understood. He had imagined the Queen recoiling in disgust or curiosity, perhaps even surprise, and in his imagination, both reactions thrilled and terrified him. The door to the chamber loomed ahead. It was massive, crafted from an alloy unfamiliar to human engineers, its surface shifting slightly as if alive, reflecting light like liquid metal. Ryan's hand hovered over the handle, unsure whether to push it slowly or enter boldly. Every story he had read, every report from previous expeditions described the Queen as imposing, commanding, even dangerous. The word disappointing had never crossed their minds. They spoke of fear, respect, caution. But even as he hesitated, a small, almost playful thought slipped into his mind. What if she was ordinary? What if all the stories had exaggerated the reality? The notion seemed absurd, yet it made his heartbeat quicken. Finally, Ryan pushed the door. It opened silently, revealing the interior of the chamber. A soft, almost misty light filled the space, and for a moment he felt a flicker of relief mixed with confusion. The room was not grandiose in the way human imaginations painted alien royalty. There were no towering statues, no glowing symbols of power etched into the walls, no immediate aura of menace. Instead, the chamber resembled a living space, clean lines, smooth surfaces, and furniture arranged thoughtfully, as if comfort mattered more than intimidation. A faint, melodic hum filled the air, originating from a device in the corner that seemed to pulse rhythmically with a soft glow. It was neither threatening nor alarming, it was domestic, and then he saw her. The Lyrathi Queen sat gracefully in a chair that appeared far too small for her elongated, elegant frame. Her form was humanoid yet unmistakably alien, translucent skin that shimmered faintly with inner light, eyes larger and darker than human eyes, and a presence that was both calming and strange. She did not rise. She did not display any immediate command of the space. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, observing him with an expression that could only be described as curiosity. Her gaze was not terrifying, not commanding, it was thoughtful. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. The image in his mind, the legendary Lyrathi Queen, ruler of millions, feared across star systems, was not what confronted him. Instead, there was a quiet dignity, a serene composure, and a spark of something almost human in her demeanor. He felt a wave of disappointment wash over him for a brief moment, quickly followed by self-reproach. Was he foolish to expect awe? Was he too attached to human notions of grandeur to accept the reality before him? He stepped forward carefully, the bouquet held out like an offering. The flowers seemed fragile against her presence, but he hoped their symbolism would speak louder than their size. The queen's eyes tracked his movement, never leaving him, yet never revealing her thoughts. He approached within a few steps, inhaling the faint scent of the chamber, a mix of subtle alien fragrances, the hum of energy, and the faint mist that hovered near the floor. It was calming, almost meditative. When he reached her, he extended the bouquet, holding it carefully so that no petals brushed against the floor. "These are from Earth," he said, his voice steady despite the tension in his chest. "I bring them as a symbol of peace and friendship." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the queen reached forward slowly with one of her delicate, elongated appendages, brushing a flower lightly between her fingers. She inhaled its scent, her large eyes narrowing slightly in consideration. The effect was almost mesmerizing. Her gaze softened, her posture relaxed. Ryan felt a small flicker of hope. Perhaps the gesture had succeeded. Perhaps humanity's first step toward true understanding of the Lyrathi began with something as simple as a bouquet of flowers. And yet the unexpected reality unsettled him. There was no dramatic response, no immediate declaration of allegiance, no overwhelming display of power. The queen did not recoil in shock, did not question his audacity, and did not demand explanation in a voice that could shatter glass. She simply examined the flowers, curiosity evident in her expression. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest, a mixture of relief and confusion. He had come expecting to face a living legend, a figure of myth and authority, yet he found a being whose complexity was subtle, almost hidden behind layers of calm. He swallowed, forcing himself to speak again. "I know our worlds have been distant," he said, choosing words carefully. "I hope this small gesture can begin a bridge between us. I come in respect and with a desire to understand." The queen considered this, and for the first time a faint smile appeared on her lips. It was not a smile of amusement, nor mockery, nor pride. It was a quiet acknowledgement, a gentle recognition that she understood the sentiment behind the act. Ryan felt a warmth spread through him, a validation that went beyond protocol or preparation. Humanity had offered peace, and for the first time it was not met with fear, resistance, or aggression. Slowly, she spoke in a resonant voice that carried a calm authority without being overwhelming. Her words were clear, her pronunciation perfect in the basic language used across interstellar diplomacy. "Why did you bring these?" she asked, genuinely curious. Ryan blinked, surprised by the simplicity of the question. It was not a challenge. It was not a test of courage or cleverness. It was an invitation to connect. He realized then that all the manuals, all the briefings, all the imagined scenarios had prepared him for everything except this. The reality of meeting another intelligent being who wanted only to understand, not to impress. I wanted to show goodwill," he said carefully. "To demonstrate respect, to offer friendship, to begin with something simple, something tangible, before words alone could carry meaning." The queen nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She examined each flower, turning them in her hands with deliberate care, as if evaluating the gesture not just for what it was, but for the intention behind it. Her gaze returned to him, steady and calm, and in that moment Ryan felt the weight of history around him, not in the fearsome presence of a ruler, but in the silent acknowledgement of an equal mind. For the first time, he understood that the stories told of the queen's power, of her cunning and dominance, had missed a critical detail. Her intelligence was measured not in spectacle, but in thoughtfulness. The greatest leaders were not those who commanded fear, but those who could observe, understand, and respond with precision. Ryan's breath caught as he realized that his mission, years of preparation, months of negotiation, endless strategies, might hinge not on demonstration of strength, but on humanity's capacity for empathy. Time seemed to stretch. The hum of the room continued, the faint mist drifting lazily near the floor, and the queen's eyes never left him. For a moment, it felt as though the universe itself paused to witness the connection forming in that quiet chamber. No words were needed to convey meaning. The flowers, the gesture, and the shared understanding were enough. Finally, the queen spoke again. "Tell me of these flowers," she said. "Tell me what they mean to your people." Ryan felt a rush of relief and excitement. Here was the conversation he had hoped for, the beginning of understanding. He began to describe the symbolism of each bloom, the cultural significance, the emotions tied to colors and scent. As he spoke, he noticed her attentiveness, the way her fingers lightly brushed the petals, the tilt of her head as she absorbed each detail. It was not all he sought to inspire, it was recognition, and recognition was already there. He realized then that the true challenge was not in impressing the queen, but in engaging with her as a sentient being with her own thoughts, feelings, and curiosities. Every word mattered, every gesture conveyed meaning, and every pause was an opportunity to observe and learn. Humanity's strength, he understood, was not in grand gestures or weapons, but in the ability to communicate across worlds, to connect through shared understanding, and to offer respect without expecting subservience in return. As he continued, a quiet sense of peace settled over him. The fear and tension that had accompanied him down the corridor dissipated. Behind the door, in a room that defied expectation, he found something more valuable than spectacle: connection. And with that connection, the first steps toward interstellar friendship were quietly, unassumingly, beginning. Ryan remained standing, the bouquet held carefully in his hands as he continued to explain the meaning of each flower. The alien queen's fingers moved gently over the petals, brushing them lightly, as if she was learning something entirely new with every touch. Her eyes, large and dark, reflected both curiosity and patience. She did not interrupt, did not challenge his words, and yet Ryan could feel that every gesture he made was being observed and measured. He spoke of the roses first, their deep reds and soft petals symbolizing courage and love. He explained how humans often gave roses to express trust and to honor relationships, whether personal or political. The queen's gaze did not waver. She leaned slightly forward, her attention complete, yet she said nothing. The silence was not uncomfortable, rather it carried an unspoken understanding. Ryan realized that in this moment, words were not just communication, they were bridges. He moved to the bluebells next, small and delicate, representing humility and gratitude. Humans value humility, he said softly, because it reminds us to recognize others' strengths, to respect them, and to acknowledge that no one is greater alone. Even the strongest leader needs guidance and support. The queen's hand hovered over the bluebells. She seemed to contemplate the concept, tilting her head as though tasting the meaning of the word itself. Finally, he reached the sunflowers, their golden faces bright and radiant. "These symbolize hope," he said. "Even in the darkest times, humans look toward the light, toward the future. We keep moving forward, learning, surviving, and striving to improve. Hope drives us even when circumstances are beyond our control." The queen's eyes softened slightly, and a faint ripple of light traveled beneath her skin, like a pulse of acknowledgement. Ryan paused, taking a deep breath. He had expected the queen to test him, to speak in riddles or challenge his statements. Instead, she was listening, truly listening. It was disarming. He felt his usual confidence, the one honed over years of training and countless diplomatic encounters, begin to shift into something gentler, something more human. For the first time in his life, he understood that diplomacy was not merely about negotiation or intimidation. It was about empathy, perception, and connection. The room's soft mist swirled lazily, the hum from the corner device maintaining a steady rhythm. Ryan realized that the queen had not asked for the flowers, yet the gesture had opened a door, one that he never thought he could reach. He wondered if anyone before him had tried to speak to her in such a human way. Probably not. Most delegations came armed with technology, demands, or displays of dominance. Few, if any, had arrived with nothing but sincerity. "Your Majesty," Ryan said, finally breaking the quiet, "I do not expect you to understand everything immediately. But I hope you see that my gesture is genuine. Humanity wishes not to impose or to control. We wish to learn, to grow, and to find ways to coexist with your people. We come with respect." The queen's lips curved slightly, a motion so subtle that a less attentive observer might have missed it. "You speak differently from others," she said, her voice low and resonant. "Most come to me with demands, threats, or tests. You speak with thought. There is care in your words, and that is rare." Ryan felt a shiver run through him. Rare was not a word he had expected to hear. He had trained to survive negotiations, to anticipate deception, and to maintain composure under pressure. Yet here, in this simple room, facing a being whose species had inspired awe and fear for centuries, he realized that his greatest strength was not training, it was humanity itself. His ability to care, to connect, to act with honesty, was his weapon and shield. He nodded, unsure how to explain that truth in words. "I have learned," he said carefully, "that understanding requires patience. That respect cannot be demanded, it must be shown and earned. And that even the smallest gesture, the simplest act, can carry the weight of intention across worlds." The queen considered him for a long moment. Her gaze softened further, and the light beneath her skin pulsed more strongly, as if indicating approval. "Then you understand something important," she said. "You understand that strength is not only in might or intellect, it is in knowing what matters and acting accordingly. You humans may have underestimated this quality in yourselves." Ryan felt a surge of humility and pride simultaneously. He had come expecting to impress, to navigate layers of alien protocol, and perhaps to be judged. Instead, he found that his sincerity, his willingness to meet her as an equal, mattered more than any preparation. Humanity's greatest asset, he realized, was not technology or fleets. It was the capacity to empathize, to communicate, and to seek connection beyond fear. For hours, they continued. The Queen asked questions about Earth, about humans, about why they valued certain things over others. Ryan spoke of the oceans, the mountains, the vast diversity of life. He spoke of human struggles and triumphs, of mistakes and lessons learned, and of the hope that had carried his people through dark times. The Queen listened, occasionally interjecting with questions that made him think in new ways. Her curiosity was genuine, her intelligence evident in the subtle ways she considered each answer, each gesture, each pause. Ryan found himself fascinated not by her power, but by her mind. She was a leader of millions, a ruler of a species feared across the stars, yet she approached understanding with patience and care. It was a reminder of what leadership truly meant, not dominance, not fear, but the ability to think, to perceive, and to act with clarity and intention. As the hours passed, Ryan's initial nervousness faded. He realized that the Queen's disappointment he had imagined earlier was not about the flowers or his gesture. It was about expectation, his expectation. Humans had been told for generations that the Lyrathi were terrifying, mysterious, and almost godlike. In reality, she was simply a being of intelligence and curiosity, perhaps more advanced than humans in certain ways, yet still bound by logic, thought, and emotion. The stories had exaggerated her form, her presence, her aura, but the truth was more valuable. The truth allowed dialogue, understanding, and a chance for connection. He looked around the chamber once more, noticing details he had missed before. The furniture was elegant yet practical, made of materials that seemed both strong and light. Soft lights traced the edges of the walls, bathing the room in warmth. A few artifacts adorned the shelves, intricate yet subtle, suggesting a culture rich in history and creativity. The hum in the corner continued, a steady, calming rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. This was not a place of intimidation or dominance. It was a place of thought, reflection, and presence. The Queen rose slowly, her movements fluid and deliberate. She did not tower over him, but her presence filled the room naturally, like water expanding to fill a container. "You are different from others," she said again, "and yet you seek to understand, not to dominate. That is rare. Perhaps that is why you carry flowers." Ryan smiled, a mix of relief and humility. "I wanted to show that even something as small as a flower can carry meaning," he said. "That peace begins not with grand gestures or threats, but with recognition and understanding." She studied him, the light beneath her skin pulsing gently, almost in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Then you may have learned what few do," she said. "The greatest power is in thought, care, and awareness. You humans may surprise me yet." Ryan felt the weight of her words settle upon him, a mixture of challenge and affirmation. He had entered this room expecting to impress a legend, to navigate protocol, and perhaps to defend himself with diplomacy. Instead, he discovered that the true test was not spectacle, it was authenticity. He had nothing to hide, nothing to exaggerate, nothing to prove beyond the honesty of his intentions. And that, he realized, was enough. The conversation shifted gradually from gestures to ideas. The Queen asked about human science, philosophy, art, and the nature of leadership. Ryan spoke of exploration, curiosity, and the drive that had pushed humanity beyond its home world. He explained that humans were flawed, often reckless yet resilient, capable of compassion and ingenuity. She listened, absorbing each word, and sometimes asked questions that challenged him to think in ways he had never considered. Hours passed like minutes. Time seemed irrelevant in that room, where two intelligent beings explored the boundaries of understanding and connection. The flowers, once the centerpiece of his gesture, had begun to wilt slightly, yet their meaning remained unchanged. They had done their work, opening the door to dialogue, respect, and the possibility of something greater than either species could achieve alone. As the light dimmed, signaling the approach of the Lyrathi evening, Ryan realized that the encounter had already transformed him. He had entered expecting awe, fear, or challenge. He had found curiosity, thoughtfulness, and a recognition of shared potential. The Queen's presence, far from disappointing, had revealed a truth more profound than any legend or story. That connection, sincerity, and understanding were as powerful as any fleet or weapon. Ryan carefully set the bouquet aside, mindful not to disturb the Queen or the delicate arrangement. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, and the Queen inclined her head in return. The exchange was simple yet profound. No words could fully capture the gravity of the moment, yet both understood it perfectly. "Tomorrow," the Queen said finally, "we will speak again. There is much to consider, much to learn. Your people may be different than I imagined, and that difference may be valuable." Ryan nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I look forward to it, Your Majesty," he said. "There is much we can share if we continue with respect and understanding." As he turned to leave, he glanced back once more at the Queen. She was seated again, her gaze calm and measured, her fingers brushing the petals of the flowers. Ryan realized that behind the door, he had found something far more important than spectacle or legend. He had found the potential for true interstellar connection, born not from fear, not from power, but from the quiet courage to offer understanding, empathy, and goodwill. And in that realization, he felt a spark of hope, not just for himself, not just for humanity, but for the bridge being built between two species separated by light years of space, yet united by the universal desire to be understood. The next day, Captain Ryan returned to the Queen's chamber, the memory of the previous encounter vivid in his mind. He had spent the night reviewing every detail, replaying every gesture, every word exchanged. The flowers, though slightly wilted, had become a symbol in his thoughts, proof that even the smallest acts could create change. He had anticipated more formal negotiations today, expecting protocols, formalities, or tests. Instead, he hoped to build upon the bridge he had started, to continue the dialogue that had begun so unexpectedly. As he approached the chamber, the soft hum of the ship's corridors greeted him again, but today there was a sense of anticipation rather than tension. The doors slid open with the same silent grace, revealing the room bathed in gentle light. The Queen was already there, seated with the same calm dignity he had come to respect. Her form seemed to radiate thoughtfulness rather than command, and the faint glow beneath her skin pulsed like a quiet heartbeat. She gestured for him to enter. "Captain Ryan," she said, her voice carrying a calm authority, "you returned promptly. That is a sign of dedication. Tell me, what have your people learned about us since our last encounter?" Ryan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned was meaningful across species. "Your Majesty," he replied, "humanity has learned that the Lyrathi are not merely a force to be feared, but a civilization to be understood. Many of us expected mystery and danger. Instead, we find intelligence, curiosity, and the capacity for thought that rivals our own. We hope to learn more and perhaps to share what we have learned in return." The Queen regarded him thoughtfully. "Curiosity is valuable," she said. "It is the foundation of progress, but it must be tempered with understanding. How much do you truly grasp of our ways?" Ryan hesitated for a moment, careful with his words. "We have studied your history, your traditions, and your accomplishments. We have sought to understand the principles behind your decisions, the values your species holds dear. Yet we also recognize that true understanding requires more than study. It requires interaction, dialogue, and observation. That is why I come here, to learn directly from you, not merely from texts or reports." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, a gesture that indicated careful consideration rather than suspicion. "You speak wisely," she said. "Many humans claim knowledge without comprehension. Words are easy, but actions reveal truth. Have your actions reflected your words?" Ryan considered this. The question was subtle yet powerful. He realized that every interaction, every gesture since entering this ship was being measured, evaluated not for its spectacle but for its authenticity. "I hope they have," he said. "I have come with openness and respect. I have shared what I can and I have listened. I have offered flowers as a gesture of goodwill, and I have approached your presence without threat or pretense. I have acted with honesty, and I continue to do so." The queen tilted her head, her large eyes reflecting a deep inner thoughtfulness. "Honesty is rare in leadership," she said. "Many fear truth, many hide behind protocol or power, yet you stand openly, acknowledging your intentions and limitations. That is noteworthy." Ryan felt a subtle surge of pride, tempered by humility. He had not come to impress or to dominate. He had come to connect. He had come to show that humanity, despite its flaws, had the capacity for empathy, understanding, and courage. The Queen's words were affirmation, yet they also reminded him that the true challenge was ongoing. Understanding was not a single moment, but a continuous process. "Your Majesty," he said, "I wish to understand the principles that guide your decisions. What drives your people? What values do you hold most dear?" The Queen leaned back slightly, her posture relaxed yet purposeful. "We value balance," she said. "We seek to maintain harmony within our society, between our species and the environments we inhabit. Strength is measured not by domination, but by the ability to act wisely, to preserve, to guide. Intelligence without wisdom is incomplete. Power without responsibility is dangerous. These principles govern our actions, and they are the foundation of our civilization." Ryan nodded, absorbing each word carefully. "Balance," he repeated. "Wisdom and responsibility, I understand. Humanity has much to learn in these areas. We have strength and ingenuity, but often we act without foresight. We seek progress, yet sometimes without considering the consequences. I hope to learn from your example, and perhaps to share our own perspectives, so that we may find common ground." The Queen regarded him in silence for several moments. Then she spoke again, her voice carrying a hint of curiosity. "You speak of sharing knowledge. What knowledge do your people possess that may be valuable to us?" Ryan considered his response carefully. He could have spoken of technology, of weaponry, of strategic advantage. Yet he understood that the Queen was seeking more than tactical benefit. She sought insight into the human mind, human experience, and human resilience. "We possess knowledge of survival," he said finally, "of adaptation and innovation. We have learned to overcome challenges that seem insurmountable, to cooperate across differences, and to strive toward improvement even when circumstances are harsh. These lessons are not in tools or machines, but in the ability to think, to plan, and to act with intent. Perhaps they may be of value to you." The Queen's eyes glimmered with what Ryan interpreted as recognition. "Survival," she said. "Adaptation, those are qualities we respect, yet they must be guided by thought and awareness. Strength alone is insufficient. You humans may have the potential to offer more than raw power if you act with care." Ryan felt a sense of connection growing between them. The dialogue was no longer merely an exchange of words. It was an exploration of ideas, a meeting of minds. He realized that the Queen's intelligence, her authority, and her presence were powerful not because they demanded fear, but because they invited understanding. Her curiosity created space for humanity to prove its own value through sincerity and thoughtfulness. For hours, they spoke. The conversation ranged from human culture to Lyrathi history, from philosophy to practical leadership, from values to visions of the future. The Queen asked questions that challenged Ryan's assumptions, and he responded with honesty and reflection. Each answer deepened the connection, revealing the possibility of trust and mutual respect. The room, once ordinary in appearance, became a crucible for ideas, a space where understanding could grow in a way that would shape the future of both species. At one point, the Queen asked about human emotions, about the capacity for hope and compassion even in the face of adversity. Ryan spoke of the resilience that had carried humanity through wars, disasters, and loss. He described the ways humans celebrated victories, comforted one another in grief, and learned from failure. The Queen listened intently, her gaze unwavering, her presence commanding yet gentle. "You humans are persistent," she said finally. "Your species endures through thought, emotion, and cooperation. You are not merely strong or intelligent. You are adaptable, reflective, and capable of learning from experience. That is a quality we value, though it is rare among younger species." Ryan felt a quiet pride. Recognition from the Queen was not a reward for ceremony or strength. It was acknowledgement of humanity's unique qualities. He realized that this meeting, these hours of dialogue, were shaping the foundation for future relations. Trust, understanding, and mutual respect were being built, not through force, but through sincerity and shared exploration. As the day wore on, Ryan noticed subtle changes in the Queen's behavior. She leaned forward slightly more often, engaged in playful curiosity about human habits, and occasionally allowed a faint ripple of amusement to pass beneath her skin. The room's soft hum seemed almost companionable, the mist swirling gently around their feet as if reflecting the calm but profound energy of the interaction. Ryan understood that the Queen's engagement was genuine, not mandated by duty but chosen freely, responding to sincerity with her own. "Tell me," she said suddenly, "why do humans value such small gestures? Flowers, greetings, signs of peace. These are fragile and fleeting." "Why are they meaningful?" Ryan smiled, considering her question. "Because intention matters more than size," he said. "A flower can wither, but the meaning behind it endures. It shows that we care, that we recognize another being's presence, that we wish to connect rather than dominate. Strength and technology are powerful, but they do not carry the same message of understanding. Only acts rooted in thought and empathy can do that." The Queen nodded slowly, absorbing his words. "Then your actions today reflect understanding rather than strength. That is rare and valuable. You humans may teach us about the simplicity and depth of such gestures." Ryan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The initial disappointment he had felt when seeing the chamber and the Queen had been replaced by awe, not of power, but of insight. Humanity's capacity for empathy, reflection, and sincere communication had created something more significant than spectacle. Behind the door, in a room far simpler than legend had promised, he had discovered the essence of what made humans remarkable. As evening approached, the Queen rose from her seat and gestured for Ryan to follow. She led him to a small balcony overlooking the expanse of space beyond the ship. Stars shimmered in the darkness, distant yet brilliant, each one a reminder of the vastness that separated worlds and species. The sight was breathtaking, yet Ryan noticed that the Queen's attention was not on the stars, but on him, on their dialogue, and on the understanding forming between them. "You have shown patience, honesty, and insight," she said. "These are qualities we value above power. They are rare in leaders of any species, and you have demonstrated them without ceremony or display. That is remarkable." Ryan felt a quiet humility settle over him. He had come seeking to negotiate, to impress, to bridge worlds through diplomacy. Instead, he had discovered that the foundation of connection was something simpler, yet infinitely more profound: sincerity, empathy, and understanding. He realized that humanity's greatest asset was not fleets or weapons, but the ability to act thoughtfully, to engage sincerely, and to recognize the value of connection beyond fear or expectation. For the first time, Ryan understood that the stories told of the Lyrathi Queen, her power, and her legend, while not false, had obscured a deeper truth. True strength was not in spectacle or dominance. It was in thoughtfulness, awareness, and the capacity to meet another being as an equal. By offering flowers, words, and sincerity, humans had begun to demonstrate a quality that could be as influential across the stars as any fleet. The Queen studied him in silence for a moment, then nodded. "Tomorrow," she said, "we will speak again. There is much to learn, and understanding grows over time. You have begun well, Captain Ryan. That is all that can be expected from one encounter, yet it is a beginning, and beginnings are precious." Ryan bowed once more, feeling a sense of purpose renewed. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said. "I will continue to learn, to listen, and to act with care. Humanity seeks not only friendship but understanding. We hope that in time we may earn your trust fully." The Queen's gaze softened, and she allowed a faint, almost imperceptible gesture of approval, a slight movement of her hand that conveyed acknowledgement without words. Ryan understood that this was no small sign. It represented the potential for ongoing dialogue, mutual respect, and a bridge between species that could endure for generations. As he left the chamber, the bouquet of flowers still resting on the table, he reflected on the lessons of the day. Humanity's strength was not merely in ingenuity or courage, but in the capacity to act with empathy, to communicate sincerely, and to build trust across the void of space. The alien queen, far from being disappointed, had revealed to him a truth more profound than any legend. That connection, thoughtfulness, and authenticity could shape the future as much as power or technology ever could. Ryan walked back through the corridors, his mind alive with possibility. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and unknowns, yet he felt a spark of hope. Behind the door, in a room far simpler than imagination had promised, humanity had begun to earn its place, not through fear, but through understanding. And that, he knew, was the greatest victory of all. The following morning, Captain Ryan returned to the Queen's chamber, carrying nothing this time except his presence and the lessons he had learned. The bouquet of flowers from the previous day had been left in the room, a quiet reminder of the first steps in understanding. He felt the weight of expectation, though it was not imposed by the Queen. Instead, it came from himself, from the desire to honor the connection that had begun, and to continue demonstrating humanity's sincerity. The chamber greeted him with the same gentle light and soft hum, the mist curling lazily along the floor. The Queen was already there, seated with the calm composure that had so surprised him on the first day. She watched him enter, her gaze steady and thoughtful, as if measuring not only his words but the integrity of his presence. Ryan took a deep breath, recalling the lessons of patience and empathy that had guided their dialogue. Today, he understood, was not about ceremony or strategy, but about the continuation of understanding. "Captain Ryan," the Queen said, her voice calm yet resonant, "you have returned promptly. That is wise. Understanding requires consistency as well as insight. What have you observed in your people since our last meeting?" Ryan considered her question carefully. "Your Majesty, I have observed that humanity's strength lies not only in our technology or strategy, but in our ability to learn, adapt, and reflect. Our people have recognized the importance of understanding other species, of listening before acting, and of seeking cooperation rather than domination. We hope that our actions continue to demonstrate respect for your people and your culture." The Queen nodded slightly, her eyes attentive. "It is one thing to speak of understanding, another to demonstrate it consistently. Actions reveal intention more clearly than words. How have you acted to ensure your intentions are recognized?" Ryan smiled, though it was tempered with humility. "I have come here, as you have asked, with honesty and openness. I have shared what I know, and I have listened with the intent to understand. I have not relied on displays of power or cleverness. Instead, I have offered sincerity, respect, and dialogue. If my actions reflect anything, I hope it is a willingness to meet your people as equals, with care and thoughtfulness." The Queen regarded him for a long moment. Then she gestured for him to approach the small balcony at the far end of the room. He followed, noting how the soft light highlighted the contours of her form and the elegance of her movements. Beyond the balcony, the stars stretched infinitely, each one a distant sun, a reminder of the vastness separating their worlds. Ryan felt the hum of the ship systems beneath his feet, steady and reassuring, a rhythm that seemed to echo the Queen's calm presence. "You speak of equality and understanding," the Queen said as they looked out at the stars. "Yet your people possess great power, potential for influence across galaxies. How do you balance strength with wisdom?" Ryan considered the question, knowing that the answer mattered more than any diplomatic phrasing. "Strength is meaningless without purpose," he said. "Power alone can intimidate or destroy, but it cannot build trust or connection. Humanity seeks not to dominate, but to survive, to explore, and to grow. We strive to act responsibly, to learn from mistakes, and to value collaboration. Our greatest strength lies not in might, but in the ability to think, reflect, and act with awareness." The Queen's eyes reflected the distant starlight, large and contemplative. "You speak truthfully," she said. "Few species recognize the value of restraint, of patience, of reflection. Most rely on force or cunning to achieve their goals. Yet you seek to act with awareness and empathy. That is rare and commendable." Ryan felt a quiet pride, not pride in himself, but pride in humanity, the species he represented. Despite their flaws, their impulsiveness, and occasional recklessness, humans had the capacity to rise above instinct and act with intentionality. That capacity, he realized, was their greatest gift. The Queen turned her gaze from the stars back to him. "And yet," she said softly, "curiosity is a dangerous trait. Many act without foresight, guided by desire rather than reason. How will your people ensure that their curiosity does not lead to conflict? Ryan thought carefully before answering. We rely on communication, education, and reflection. We learn from our past, from history, and from each other. We value counsel and seek guidance when needed. Our curiosity is tempered by understanding, and our exploration is guided by respect. It is not perfect, and mistakes are made, but the willingness to correct them and to consider consequences is what sets us apart. The Queen's expression shifted subtly, a gesture that Ryan interpreted as acknowledgement. She stepped closer, her large eyes reflecting the faint glow beneath her skin. "Then perhaps your people are more capable than I imagined," she said. "Strength without wisdom is dangerous, but strength guided by reflection can create opportunities for peace and growth. You may be the first to demonstrate this clearly." Ryan felt the impact of her words settle over him. He had entered this room expecting to face legend and power, perhaps even challenge. Instead, he discovered that the greatest test was the ability to act with sincerity and to engage with another being honestly. The Queen's acknowledgement was not a reward, but a recognition of potential, a door opened not by spectacle but by authenticity. They returned to the interior of the chamber, where the bouquet of flowers still rested. The Queen touched a single petal lightly, her gesture deliberate and thoughtful. "Small gestures often carry the most meaning," she said. "The intention behind them reveals character more than words or actions alone. Your flowers, Captain Ryan, spoke of care and respect. They conveyed what fleets and fleets of ships cannot." Ryan nodded. "I hoped that something as simple as flowers could carry a message that is difficult to express otherwise. That peace begins with understanding, not intimidation, and that sincerity can bridge worlds." The Queen considered him, then asked, "And what have you learned about us, Captain? What have you learned in these days of dialogue?" He paused, reflecting on the interactions, the hours of conversation, the lessons gained from observing her thoughtfulness and intelligence. "I have learned that true power lies not in dominance, but in awareness. That understanding requires patience and empathy. That even the smallest gestures, offered sincerely, can create connections that endure far longer than intimidation or spectacle. And I have learned that curiosity, when guided by respect, can open doors that seem impossible to access." The Queen's expression softened, the light beneath her skin pulsing gently. "Then you understand something vital," she said. "Not only about us, but about your own species. Strength, knowledge, and courage are valuable, but they are incomplete without reflection, empathy, and understanding. You humans may yet demonstrate these qualities in ways unexpected." Ryan felt a sense of calm fulfillment. The chamber, the flowers, the quiet hum, and the mist, all of it had become a stage for something far greater than ceremony or negotiation. It was a place where minds met across species, where ideas and intentions could connect without coercion, and where trust could begin to grow. Humanity's position in the galaxy, fragile and young, could be strengthened not by fleets or weapons, but by the demonstration of thoughtfulness, sincerity, and awareness. As the conversation continued, the Queen invited him to sit. They exchanged ideas on leadership, cooperation, and vision. Ryan shared insights about human culture, exploration, and innovation. The Queen shared aspects of Lyrathi society, their values, and their approach to guidance and governance. Dialogue flowed naturally, each question and answer building understanding, each gesture reinforcing sincerity. At one point, Ryan asked about the Queen's own experiences, about the burdens of leadership and the challenges she faced. She spoke of responsibility, of decisions that affected millions, and of the need for careful consideration in all actions. Ryan listened, recognizing the parallels to humanity's struggles with governance and morality. He realized that despite differences in biology, culture, and history, leaders across species shared a common weight: the responsibility to act with wisdom and integrity. The afternoon passed quietly. The chamber, once merely a room of legend, had become a space of shared exploration and discovery. The flowers, though partially wilted, remained as symbols of the bridge they had begun to build. Ryan understood that their significance lay not in freshness or beauty, but in the intent behind them, a gesture of peace, respect, and hope. The Queen finally rose and stood before him. "Captain Ryan," she said, "you have demonstrated what few have achieved. You have acted with patience, honesty, and thoughtfulness. You have connected not through force or ceremony, but through sincerity. That is the foundation for lasting understanding. Ryan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he knew would be recognized. Your Majesty, it is my honor to serve as a representative of humanity. We hope that our actions continue to reflect the sincerity and respect we wish to convey. The lessons I have learned here will guide not only me, but my people in future interactions with your species. The Queen nodded. Then you may return to your people with knowledge and insight, share what you have learned, and continue to act with care. Your species has potential, Captain Ryan. Potential to demonstrate that strength guided by awareness and empathy can achieve far more than force or fear alone. Ryan felt a quiet sense of triumph. Not the triumph of victory over an adversary, but the triumph of connection and understanding. He had entered the chamber expecting legend and awe, only to discover a being whose greatness lay in thought, curiosity, and the capacity for reflection. Humanity had begun to demonstrate its own greatness, not through intimidation or power, but through sincerity, dialogue, and empathy. As he departed, the stars outside the balcony seemed to shine brighter. He carried with him the memory of the Queen's gaze, the pulse of light beneath her skin, and the quiet recognition of potential that had been offered without demand or expectation. The bouquet of flowers remained behind, a testament to the small gestures that can change history. Captain Ryan understood, finally, that the galaxy was not won by fleets alone, nor by threats or displays of might. It was won by connection, understanding, and the courage to offer sincerity in a universe that often expected spectacle and domination. Humanity, fragile and young among the stars, had begun its first true step toward friendship and respect with a species long feared and admired. And in that step he saw hope, not only for himself or his people, but for the possibilities of coexistence, growth, and mutual understanding that could shape the future of both species. Behind the door that had once held expectation and legend, Ryan had discovered a truth far more powerful than any myth, that the greatest victories are achieved not through fear or dominance, but through thought, empathy, and connection.